Welcome to I'm From the Internet, a podcast about the internet, its users, and their consequences. I am disgraced comedian Winslow Dumaine, sitting here with internet historian Brandstetter. And, this is an unusual episode, so there's not going to be as much banter. But, Jay, how have you been?
All things considered, I've been holding up a lot better than I was expecting. I'm not quite back to where I was. That's one of the reasons why we're doing this episode is, we're recording this at the end of January, but it's probably not going to get to release till the end of February. But because of personal stuff that's unfolding behind the scenes, but I just wanted to, get it out while it was, I felt it was still fresh, I guess.
Yeah. So what's been going on?
Because this might be breaking containment or something that people look up in the future, I was going to list my bona fides here at the beginning. I think they're kind of a pretty good prep on what I'm talking about. Because I'm talking about Fredrick Brennan, specifically his basically I was his boyfriend for the last half year of his life or so. And I've been living with him for a couple of years. So this is kind of going to be me talking about stuff that hasn't been reported on as much in documentaries, personal stuff as someone who knew him, some stuff from his earlier life, some stuff from, the last couple of years of his life, the time after the documentary that was on HBO. And I think it's basically, I've gotten to talk about internet history before, and now I'm this is it's the worst possible reason to be participating in it, but this is internet history. I want to kind of try and do my due diligence to preserve this.
Yeah, it's all history. I've known about what happened for a bit now, and it's weird because nobody knows. And so it feels like we're sitting on this aspect of internet history that has not been reported yet. And I think that I just think it's really important that we capture who he was and the impact that he had. And, he was just a really brilliant and interesting guy that had this really big, multifaceted life. And I don't know. I'm just. It's very sad. It's tragic. But I'm really glad that he had someone like you who also has this big, broad, multifaceted life. So it's good that he had. That's all I can really say.
I definitely agree. I think maybe that's part of why this doesn't feel so bad. Is because I think a part of being in a relationship with someone who is chronically has a chronic developmental issue like that is you do kind of prep yourself a little, even if it's only subconsciously. Because his life expectancy was his 50s. That was kind of in the back of my head 20 years. It was best case. It was probably on average. That was kind of the goal I was thinking. We have 20 years together. So and it's not to be 6 months, but it's kind of. My life has kind of just been me sort of metaphorically falling down the stairs that over and over. So it's the first time that happened when I found out the thing I'd been studying for wasn't getting my career destroyed me. Now it's the fourth or fifth time. I'm all right, new life, whatever. First time.
Yeah. I guess we haven't.
I know I'm being flippant, but it does.
No, yeah. we haven't said it point blank, but Fredrick Brennan passed away, and what's been 3 weeks now.
Yeah, it was on January 10th, so we're coming up on the third week anniversary of it.
Okay. Yeah. And so we wanted to kind of have a history of him and of the two of you, and kind of talk about, we're an internet history podcast, and to differing degrees, the both of you are parts of internet history. And I thought it might be good to have that captured and recorded. So this is your story. So I don't know where you want to start it, but take it away, Jay.
Yeah, I guess so. I sort of have just a sort of breakdown of how I know Fred. I'm going to go more in depth at the end of it, but we first became friends in fall of 2022 when he followed the Something Awful Moments Twitter account that was blowing up at the time, and that's how we met each other, started talking. Mm-hmm. Then in spring of 2023, when I was unemployed, he was complaining on Twitter about how he had to hire a new personal assistant. So I messaged him and I was like, yo, I'd like to do that. And things kind of went from there. There's one thing about this I'm really glad. It's I'm glad I was appointed my friend. I was yeah, why not? What's the worst that can happen? Because I did get a really cool life out of this.
I mean, that's how we started this podcast. Is you were posting something about looking to find you were looking for questions about something awful, and I just said, "Have you ever think about doing a podcast?" And you were just "Yeah, but I don't know. I just would need a comedian to help me with it." And I'm just buddy, I'm right here. So The power of the DM.
And then I replied, I was like, well, that's great. Now we need a producer. And Steve was like, hey, I can do this.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever mentioned on the show, but Steve had actually messaged me before that at one point. Because when I was still doing YouTube videos, he talked about being offered to help me with audio on making something. So he'd been interested in working with me before that. That was a nice thing about that. How, that's when I see about opening yourself up like that. I know some people are like, oh, they're being out of content. They're breaking character on the gimmick account again. I'm like, yeah, it's because that was a life-changing thing. If I had kept it to myself, I would have gotten any of this cool stuff. And in exchange, I would have gotten complete internet strangers begrudging respect, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I break character on the mayor of Silent Hill as often as I fucking want. I don't care. It's a Twitter account for a game that's not the game that I loved when I was a kid. Cool. So yeah, you met him through Twitter, and it kind of took off from there.
Yeah, and then so spring 2023, I started working for him remotely as a personal assistant, doing data entry and stuff. And then July 2023, I moved to Atlantic City, and I'm his in-person caretaker full time because we got along, and he liked my work ethic and everything. He was like, and I was totally up for it. And so I moved up in July of 2023. I had a hard time finding a place to live, and so I wound up living with this family and him starting in the beginning of 2024, which was really nice because he's somebody who, as we'll see, is pretty heavily disabled. So way more than the rest of his family who also have the disease. So having someone who's basically an on-call aide at all times was really, really useful and helpful for him. I'm glad I was there for him.
And for the uninitiated, he had osteogenesis imperfecta.
Oh yeah, I got notes about that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, after you get past my bona fides, I have this a breakdown about
that. Okay, yeah. I mean, well, I've made lighthearted jokes about it throughout the pod. So if you're a diligent listener, you have an idea of what.
Yeah, and also just so we know that this isn't going to be a total death march because I'm still me. Earlier this week, we picked up his ashes last week. He was cremated, and I was helping his mom organize her room. We were moving some furniture, and I knocked them off the table. They were, in a container and everything, so it was fine. But then I just blurted out, well, I'm glad I didn't do that when he was alive. And then she started cackling.
Yeah.
And she was like, I get why he liked you. She's been very cool about this. If I had to, comfort a, wailing, grieving mother on top of everything else, I know how I'd be handling this, but her being honestly, she's been a mom to me throughout all this. It's been great.
Yeah, I mean the way that you've handled this whole thing has just been just unbelievable. I could not, Jesus Christ. I mean, I could not go through what you've gone through without just losing my mind with grief. But not saying that you haven't been experiencing grief, but just wow.
I was kind of shocked for a day or two. I spent the first day afterwards just sort of writing to compose my thoughts and sort of organize everything. After that, it was I dumped everything out. In a weird way, it's a good coping strategy I learned from this show. It's when I can't get over something, I write about it and then it's out. And then that was a very personal one. And then this was something I did later. This is more show worthy. This is just my. This isn't my unhinged, grief-stricken ramblings. This is an actual notes for the show.
Yeah. So, you moved in with him up in Atlantic City.
Yeah, at the beginning of 2024. Yeah, Atlantic City, and then in July of 2025, about a year and a half later, me and him became partners when we were we were having a heart-to-heart at the hospital after he broke his arm once. So we did I talked about once on a bonus episode that just came out. So the story's in there, so I won't go over it too much here. But that was it. And yeah, it was that might be a surprise to some people because he had a wife, but we'll get into some of the details a little later. But he was a young guy. He was still figuring himself out, and I'm just glad I could be there for him. He was something that made me really happy. I never thought he'd have a boyfriend. And it made me really happy. We were out walking. I'd hold his hand or introduce myself as his boyfriend or something. It really meant a lot to him. I'm glad I could give that to him. And and also I've never gotten to have a boyfriend either before. This is my first time, doing that, and especially after my last relationship. It's very funny that I'm less completely inconsolably non-functional after this one. I guess because maybe there's at least a sense of closure. I'm the person who found him, so it's I basically, statistically, I was probably the person that happened to someone who does everything with him and wakes him up. But still, it was I guess there's that sense of closure and finality. It's I can't bring him back.
Yeah, I mean, not to be glib about it, but the way that my the story of the pain of my life is not knowing when to leave and not knowing when to go, and like then leaving and then yearning and then like wishing that I did it differently and all this stuff. But like death takes care of that. It has its own, obviously, it has its own problems. It has its own huge, terrifying things because of the permanence of it all. But it is the finality is probably kind of a relief in a weird way,
Like compared to the alternative, I guess. Like like my only other relationship I had, like when it ended, like part of why I was like they said we were still friends. I never saw them again, so it was like that it was like hemorrhaging, whereas this is very cauterizing. It's like there's nothing coming after this, no matter what I do. How I handle things with everyone else and myself matters, but like. Yeah, it's more of a phantom pain than anything, where it's just like I'll see something that reminds me of him, or like I'll want to send him something and realize like I can't anymore. Like when you were posting cards, like new cards a couple of days after the first half I saw, I was like, ooh, the font on that's really neat for everyone. Oh fuck, that. Just
yeah.
And it's probably gonna take a while because it's something that it's ingrained in you. But that's part of part of coping with it. All things considered. Like, I seem to be doing very well and pretty lucky with this. Like if this is one of my autism superpowers, I'll take it.
And if you want to know more about phantom pains, please listen to our episode about Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain.
Never be Game Over 2. Fred isn't actually dead.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, that could be it. That's funny.
No, please don't.
Yeah.
That's not even funny to joke about.
Yeah. But he was like such a good resource on like everything, and like he helped me with like font stuff because he was like a fontsmith. And we talked a lot about like Xerox burn because he had that big ass printer from Google when he was making fonts for them. And he was our stand-in Robert Evans on the Robert Evans episode where we did like a dry run where he was like, "Hello, I'm Robert Evans," which is not how Robert Evans sounds. And so we ran through all the jokes first. He wasn't just like this character in the background. He like cared about the pod and cared about us and helped us out, and he was the boyfriend of the pod, as they say.
Yeah. And he was someone who was into internet history. That's one of the ways we became friends. And one things I'll talk about, like something he was doing later in his life was the way he was trying to preserve that. So it's it is. So that was it was a kindred spirit. And he did like the show. Like, he didn't regularly listen to podcasts. He was a YouTube guy. Like he listened to some episodes of our show, and like he would make references to it. Like when we first started going to the methadone clinic, I was trying to like find ways to make it fun. So I got him like a little keychain kit, so you can make like a word keychain to put on his identification for the clinic. He made one spelled out "the juice is loose" because he thought the episode was really funny. Since he was getting this clear liquid all the time, he was calling it "the juice."
Yes, of course. God, yeah. Every episode that we've had about drugs has been like a top 10 for me. They're all just so crazy because it's not just people smoking weed.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Kratom episode. We're actually going to get like one little fun thing that Fred told me in this later on about Kratom and some of his stuff in the Philippines.
God, if we could re-get Robert Evans to talk about Kratom, I think there's no chance in hell that would be awesome. But
he's really busy. It's pretty cool. Now I can be like, I'm only like 2 steps removed from Netflix now. Like anyone who's been on Netflix, I'm technically just 2 steps removed from that.
Yeah, we're so close to getting you that IMDb credit. Yeah, but you helped him on some other. He was getting an interview with somebody else, and you were like there talking with them, right? There's some other documentary.
Yeah, it was in fall of 2024. Like I think the last interview he did, PBS was doing a story on Telegram. They interviewed him as like a source on that and asked him questions about Telegram, and they sent like a crew down. I drove him to a vineyard here, and it was interesting to experience and kind of see what professional recording people are like in their day-to-day life, and and also see what he's like when he's handling himself. And it was pretty cool. That was one of the reasons why him wanting to be on the show was always meant a lot to me. Because he was someone who didn't like to be on camera or really recorded. He mostly was kind of driven to do that to like make up for stuff and like preserve things for history. He wasn't like a glory hound. And so the fact that he was like being on your stuff, and I was helping him feel better about being like, people think you're funny, people think you're charming. Like, people always compliment when you guest on stuff, and trying to help out with that stuff was very validating, as I know from experience.
Yeah. And I don't know, it's like you just had this inside look at his life And yeah, I mean, you as a caretaker and as like somebody who have the kind of a kindred spirit, there's just a lot between the two of you that produce some pretty interesting, pretty thoughtful work.
Yeah, and I will say, like, that is kind of like a part. There's like a caretaker deal, but we literally saw the doctor 3 days before he died, so like that did a lot to help with that. 'Cause it's like, and also I guess like since people don't even we don't know the official cause yet. We haven't gotten the autopsy results back, but he seems like he just died in his sleep. Like he had his broken arm. He was already on methadone, like dealing with his addiction problems. He got sick, and then it was like, and then it was just like he got better a little bit, then he got worse, and then just like. It just looks like he didn't wake up one day, and it's like it wasn't like some like tragic accident or some horrible disease. It was just kind of like just all the stuff catching up with him. And also, as we'll find out, he was kind of running his body pretty rough before I came along.
Yeah, and like I mean, you don't need us to tell you that like the skeleton is one of the most important parts of the body, and that's why it's so scary to see them outside of the body. And his skeleton was made of like paper mache. It was like a champagne flute. It was just very delicate, and like that just produced all of these other like comorbidities, these other problems with it. And so it's just like, yeah, he would regularly break his arm. Jesus.
Yeah, well, we're talking about we can do the osteogenesis imperfecta part. I do have a section with some skeletons showing the different types.
Yes, because his X-ray is the page on it's the image on Wikipedia, is it not?
Yeah, if you go to Wikipedia and you search for osteogenesis imperfecta, the first X-rays on the right that show up are his arm and leg X-rays, I believe. He also is the one who contributed them because he's a Wikipedia editor, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of his pictures are on there.
He helped me get the raffle on there, I think.
He did. Yeah. I have some fun Wikipedia editing stories later on too.
Oh, that's great. So yeah, we're looking at a chart of osteogenesis imperfecta. And like type 1
like X-rays showing different skeletons.
Yeah. Type 1 is kind of like a stocky build with kind of pigeon-toed. Type 2, it's just kind of like squished down, more knob-kneed and pigeon-toed. And like, well, is it problematic for me to say that it looks like a person transitioning into the Arcturix logo?
I was going to say it looks like an Animorphs cover.
Exactly.
It's just a person turning into a smaller person.
Yeah. But like the bones are bendy and softer, and so like the spine is just all over the place. It affects everything.
Yeah, because osteogenesis imperfecta, also known as brittle bone disease, what it's caused by is it's a dysfunction in how your body produces collagen. It's a support protein. It's like one of the compounds of your bones and cartilage. So when your body doesn't make it right, it has a knock-on effect on everything that's made out of collagen. Mm-hmm. And there are different types of osteogenesis imperfecta, and they're not the number doesn't. It's not like increasing severity. Right. They're just different permutations. And like type 1 is where you're still able to like walk, and some people don't even get diagnosed until later in their childhoods. It's just where you're a little more breakable than regular people. You maybe don't heal as well. And then type 3 is like the really severe one where a lot of people like don't survive with it, like when they're born with it. When those that do, they tend to be very broken up over time from it. It's one that's hard. And then Fred had type 4, which is like a midpoint. It's where you have dwarfism. It's variable too.
Yeah.
It changes a lot, and it's based on a gene. So there's a lot of different ways it can express itself.
Because what I'm looking at here, one of the examples of type 4, the dude certainly doesn't have any legs at all. He just has a pelvis.
Yeah, I'm assuming those got broken off or something.
Oh,
I think it doesn't keep you from growing them. But yeah, that's a downside of brittle bone disease. Sometimes you just have to get one that bad. And also like a lot of people, one of the things that when you grow up with it is you get like metal plates put in your bones to help reinforce them sometimes. So that's one of the reasons why diagnosis is important.
There's some good Meshuggah songs about that. Replacing your bones with steel bars. Yeah. Okay. God.
Yeah, Wolverine without the cool parts.
Yes, he's like an inverted Wolverine. But they're both small.
I guess a raccoon is kind of an inverted Wolverine.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. My little pop culture framework for this is like, he's not Mr. Glass from Unbreakable or Joker from Mass Effect. He's Corpus Colossus from Mad Max Fury Road.
He's legit Corpus Colossus from Mad Max.
If you've ever, that actor has osteogenesis imperfecta. I would imagine. Sort of an Australian internet figure with it. Yeah. It's also pretty funny because me and him kind of had like a rictus erectus Corpus Colossus dynamic where I'm like the big, loud, excitable guy, and he's like the little, intelligent, quiet guy. Like basically, we had like a little Fury Road thing going. All we needed was like a Scrotus, just like the third brother.
I mean, I could be your Scrotus, but yeah, I mean
I could be your.
I think about that whenever you see an actor that is like, you know, there's that one woman who's like one of the more famous deaf actors, but like, what's the casting call like for like we need somebody with osteogenesis imperfecta to act in Fury Road? Yeah, I mean that.
I imagine you probably saw him online or something and was like, this guy's really charming and interesting. Also, I will say the guy who directed Mad Max, he used to be a doctor beforehand. And one of his things is that he's really interested in like disability and caretaking. That's like even the original Mad Max back in the 70s, there's like a part where like an old woman with a shotgun who has a disabled son is like fighting off bikers. It's something he cares about a lot, and that's one of the reasons why he always has like disabled actors in his movies.
That's interesting. God, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. George Miller, that's it. I didn't want to say Frank Miller. It's the wrong Miller.
Right? Yeah, Miller Time, Robert Mueller. I don't know. Whatever. I want this. This is a completely side note, but I wonder where all the people who made pins and shirts and coffee cups and all that stuff of like it's Mueller time when they thought that Robert Mueller was going to nail Trump to the wall. You remember those days, man? Look.
There can be like a museum of all the novelty political stuff that just gets cast away over the years.
Yeah,
like
and like it's just been like light speed for liberals thinking that their little like rhyming Twitter post is going to be the thing that takes Trump down. It's like, oh my god, you people have not learned. There's bodies in the street, and you're still like doing like song and dance routines on TikTok. Oh boy. Anyways, that's besides the point.
Yeah, so I guess we can go back in time, I guess, to the pre-8chan days. All I do is parent to begin with. I'll give you a little intro into where Fred comes from. So Fred's mom, Vera, she's a local character in the New Jersey and New York area. She grew up on a farm, which is pretty interesting. She's told me stories about living on it, and like she would like have fresh eggs and milk from the farm and stuff growing up. Even though she had like brittle bones, she got to have good health care and stuff growing up. So she's pretty autonomous. She knows how to drive. When she was younger, she drove. Like when people they have what they call a suicide knob, which is like where it's a knob on the steering wheel that lets you turn it, and they call it that because if you're wearing long sleeves, it's very easy for it to get caught in the knob, and then you can't turn it and you crash and die. So
there's a variety of parts of cars called suicide something. There's at least a suicide knob and suicide doors. And I know that people used to call motorcycles murder cycles because of how, I mean, like they still are, like the quickest way to smash your skull into the sidewalk. But yeah, perhaps humans should not have ever accelerated beyond 20 miles an hour. But yeah, grew up on a farm. Had some eggs. Great.
Yeah, same type of dwarfism as him, dwarfism wheelchair. And then one of her things was she wanted to work in broadcasting, and she didn't get to have a career in that. But there are like some '80s news articles about her time as an activist and like doing interviewing and such. Like it's something she was pretty good at. It's just she never really got to the point where it could be a career, but she tried at it. Mm-hmm. And she also worked as a switchboard operator at the Caesars in Atlantic City later in her life. So that's one of the things too. Like it was because that's a job she could do in a wheelchair. And I her like she got to meet a bunch of celebrities back in the day, like in the '80s. Like she's met like Neil Diamond and Bill Cosby. She actually had a negative encounter with him.
Harvey Weinstein and Pol Pot.
Yeah. Yeah, she did meet George Carlin once. I think I recorded that one where she got strapped in an elevator with him on New Year's Eve when he was performing. They had like little conversations.
Oh my god, that's the story.
Little encounters like that. Oh yeah, and that's one of the nice things about this is whatever things that's kind of like spurred her to want to make her own stuff and record her own history while she's around. So she's doing her own kind of disability stuff. I'm going to help her, and if she finishes everything, I'll probably shout it out on here because it's probably going to be pretty interesting.
Cool, interesting.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and so she did that, and eventually in her 30s, she decided she wanted to have a family, and it's the time to do that. And she's the hero of the story, basically. She's a good influence in Fred's life. She's always trying to help him, and his father David is kind of the malignant force in this.
Yep, that's what I've heard.
Yeah. So his father David was a local con man and never do well. He was a repairman by trade, but he would just do stuff like he'd offer to fix up people's cars, and then you would just take them and not give them back and hope they just didn't bother about it. Like it'd just be like very low effort, kind of just like just taking advantage of people. Like
that is so fucking low effort. I'm sorry. The idea of like I mean, I think I've told the story before where I was doing community service, and this kid I know got like kicked off of the community service like chain gang that we were on, and he was like, "Hey, bro, can I borrow your MP3 player? I'll give it back. I'll give it back Monday. I just need it for a party. Can I borrow your MP3 player?" And I was like, "No," because I know what he was doing. He was just gonna fuck off with it. But oh boy, the idea of like, "Yeah, I'll fix your car," and then you just get in it, just drive away. Like, there's no part two of that. You're just gone. It's just,
yeah. And then you show up at his house and he has your car parked in his backyard.
Yeah, and he's like, "That's not mine. That's not yours. It's nobody's. Don't take it. You can't have it." Yeah, wild.
Yeah, and I've never met him, thankfully. And like, from what Fritz told me, he seems like the type of person, like, when you want something, he can be very charming at first, and then just over time, as you know him, you get to sort of see the holes in his personhood and such. So like, he's the villain in this, and sort of a lot of what befell Fred is sort of a direct consequence of stuff that David did.
Yeah, God. Okay.
Yeah, so preamble out of the way, February 21st, 1996, Fredrick Robert Brennan is born. He has a younger sibling, a couple years younger than them. They're non-binary and they're private, so that's why he refers them as sibling. And they also have the same type of OI. So Fred gets to grow up with a family of people with the same disease, and someone who's grown up with it and has experience, which is good. That's kind of one of the problems with that. Is if your parents don't know what it's like, they can't really understand it in the same way.
Interesting. So is it carried on the mother's gene or something like that?
Yeah, I can't remember the specifics right now for some reason, but it is passed down genetically.
I just know that in the HBO documentary, he talked about how he had a degree of resentment for his parents because he was like, "Well, I'm saddled with this life of like my bones are always breaking, and I'm trapped in this wheelchair." And he had he was just kind of upset with his mom, and like it obviously later it changed a lot, but I guess I just didn't know the degree to which, like, I didn't know how his mom was able to have like two kids with the same thing. I just didn't know it was that prominent of a gene, or however it works.
Well, it's because she has it and the dad doesn't. So I'm sure if you made a Punnett square or something, it would show odds or whatever. But yeah, it's just one of those things that passes on. It's also like, we'll probably talk about the point is like, thankfully there's something he got over over time and sort of renounced, like that sort of attitude towards the disabled and himself.
Yeah, very much so. He was just obviously very frustrated.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that it is pretty frustrating. I have frustration and resentment about my own disability, so I get it. Like, it's
makes sense.
And also, that doesn't remind me though, is that he didn't get diagnosed with autism as a child. He had to figure out as an adult like me. So that's another thing compounding this too, is that he's he's autistic on top of all this, doesn't know it, and other people don't know it either. So he's having a hard time connecting with and communicating with people. Yeah,
it seems like he had a kind of an alienated existence growing up, and that kind of leads to the next, to the next, and the next. Yeah,
even worse than it seems, as we'll see.
Yeah, I don't doubt.
And tying into that, like, one of the things about osteogenesis imperfecta is it's really difficult to grow up psychologically, even in the best of circumstances, because you're in a lot of pain as a child. So a lot of times it's partially self-inflicted because you don't understand your own limitations or have development of your motor control. But also a lot of it is due to adults not listening to you or taking you seriously and then blaming you for their mistakes. That was a story he told me about as a kid. Is like, he would tell teachers or authority figures, like, I have brittle bones. They wouldn't listen or take it seriously, and then he'd get hurt, and then they would just get angry at him.
I mean, as a child, was he like a approximately normal-sized child?
He was a small child. I see pictures of him when he was a kid. Like, one of the cute things when he was like really little, like before school, is like him and his mom and his sibling would all be on the floor together, and they'd be crawling around, and sort of like they'd have carpets and stuff down so they could crawl around safely. And it was like, it was neat to hang around without chairs like that and just play as kids as best they could.
I guess it's just interesting that he would end up in a gym class. As the only Fred that I've ever known was in a wheelchair, and I don't imagine he'd be anywhere near a kickball.
Yeah, that's like one of the examples I have is when he was going to school. Like, there was a gym period, and he was like telling them, like, no, like, I can't be in the gym. Ball could hurt me, and they were like, you can just stay off to the side. And then that ball hit him and broke his arm.
Gym teachers, I mean, we don't need to go into that, but gym teachers are like perverts and felons for the most part. But yeah,
we were talking about that, and I told him about how it reminded me of when during the brief time I was teaching, how like a lot of teachers were very openly resentful of the students that required or asked for accommodations, like especially among other teachers. And he was like, thank you, because like my entire life I was always afraid to use this because I felt like the teachers were judging me for it. And I'm like, yeah, I wish it wasn't that way, but some teachers are really shitty about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's why we shouldn't want to make people feel that way about asking for help. Also, though, I did teach in Florida, so that kind of affects the demographics a little.
Yeah, well, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, like he spent a lot of time as a kid in a cast, so he couldn't play with other kids even outside of his disability. Like at one point, he had both of his legs and one arm in a cast.
Jesus.
Like Looney Tunes level of wrapped up in casts.
Yeah, and I know that, like, you know, kids are not the most delicate people, and they will also say mean shit that will, like, further ostracize you and make you feel gross and weird. You know, take it from me. Take it from anybody who listens to this podcast. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, like even as an adult, he didn't like being around kids because they sometimes they would like say hurtful things. They couldn't control themselves. Like once I was at Spirit Halloween with him, and like a little girl walked on the corner, saw him, and like reacted like very scared because like she didn't realize, you know. And I get that it wasn't her fault. She was just reacting like in that context. I just felt really bad. It was, you know, embarrassing.
Yeah, no, I get it. Okay, you got to tell me what this is. Xeroderma pigmentosum?
Yeah, so one of the upsides of him living in smaller cities is that instead of a special school that disabled kids would attend the same school as everyone else, it would be a mixed student population. So he got better socializing than he probably would have if he'd been a bigger city. And one of his classmates, they had xeroderma pigmentosum, which is the disease where you're basically allergic to the sun. Like you're very sensitive to UV rays. Like your skin will just openly start blistering and burning, like if you're out in the sun. And so his classmate had what they called a space suit, where they wore like a full body UV protection. You've probably seen human interest stories about this at some point in your life because this is very cool looking. And yeah, just like he would go to class with a kid in a space suit because the sun would kill them.
That's wild, because that's kind of a part of one of the next games that I want to make is based around basically you can't go outside because the sun will kill you. But they don't have this.
Yeah, it's been theorized that xeroderma pigmentosum might be one of the origins for the vampire myth. Like, yeah, there are people who literally burn in sunlight.
That's fucking wild.
It's interesting, but I will warn you if you Google it, prepare yourself, because it's just very upsetting to see people with their skin just all like, you know, burst and stuff from the sun.
Yeah, good lord. Hey. I'm sorry. I know that's probably really mean, but like, wow.
That's a nice encapsulation of what we were just talking about with Fred. Like, people, yeah, you react to stuff, and that's one of the things that, you know, sucks, but it's like that's how people are.
Yeah, that's a lot. Put my phone down. Yeah, that's a lot. Moving on. There's some wild stuff in this next couple. Well, okay, so we worked with he was helped by the Shriners, which
because Osteogenesis imperfecta is one of the causes that they fundraise for and like have hospitals for. So we actually got to meet like Shriners in their little cars and stuff when he was a kid, which that was a neat detail. It's like, you know, when you have a disease that has its own special arm of the Shriners, you know you have something unique.
I maybe you know more about this, but like I know that Shriners exist. I know that they do certain things and they have like the little fez caps and stuff. Who are they? Why do they exist?
They're like one of those men's social clubs, like kind of like the Masons, or like you know, they're Shriners. It's like a bunch of like fake Middle Eastern stuff, like scimitars and suns. That's why they wear fezzes, because it's like, you know, white dudes play that. Back when it was first made, they were play acting like mysticism, and that was what was cool and mysterious. But now it's just like a social club for old men, and that's like a charity thing that they do. Like when I was in Jacksonville when I was a kid, the convention center I would go to the Green Market Computer Shows out was the Shriner Center because they owned it. Like, oh wow, that was one of the things they did too. There's kind of like a meta group that's around, or kind of like maybe the Oddfellows.
Yes,
the Oddfellows are kind of like a group like that.
Yeah, because the Oddfellows, their slogan is something to the degree of like shelter the homeless, feed the sick, and bury the poor, or something like that. Because like one of their things is like if you're poor, you deserve to still have a funeral. And so that was one of the causes that they had.
Oh, I thought they meant like bury them alive, like a very radical third option there.
No, they weren't that. Yeah, they were not as Krieg as that. No. But okay, it says here that he taught himself Esperanto. That's
yes, when he was 7.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah, like from a book. like that was his thing. Because like when he was a kid, like a lot of times, like he'd just want to be by himself, and he'd spend a lot with books. And languages are like one of the because it's something he's incredibly gifted at. So, like, and also one of the things that Esperanto is it's a designed language. It's supposed to be something that's like relatively easy to learn. It was like the idea was it's supposed to be sort of like a lingua franca for the entire world. Like nobody is a native speaker of Esperanto, but anyone can learn it. It's a very utopian idea, and that's like Fred was a genius. That was one of the things I was like he was so good at languages. He was fluent in like 7 different languages and was always learning new ones. And not even just like Romance languages. Like he like Tagalog, which is very complicated. He developed a font for Tagalog. Like even languages you didn't understand.
That's fucking wild, dude. Oh man. Yeah. I hope there's footage of him like speaking some of these. That's so interesting.
Probably he's done stuff about font design. I think when I was first getting to know him, he spoke at Libre Planet 1 year. So he's done a talk.
Did you go to DEF CON with him?
I didn't go to DEF CON. Steve is a DEF CON guy. He did music there.
You went to some other thing.
We went to Libre Planet. Okay. He didn't speak at that one, but I did get to go. Yeah, that's the big like free software meetup.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I have a little note in there about it. Plus, the year we got to go was the last year they were having in-person stuff. I think next year they're moving to a virtual conference. I think their offices are also like I got to tour the offices of the Free Software Foundation before they closed, which is really cool. They had like 90s. They had that $100 laptop from the 2000s that was supposed to like revolutionize the world. And by the time it came out, smartphones existed. Nobody cared. Like they had so many cool artifacts there.
That's wild. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like. I am unambiguously into like words and language and letters and fonts and stuff like that. I think it's all just so interesting because it's like it is this like arcane cosmic power that we have that like a person can write something down and die and then for 10,000 years their knowledge lives on is like a technology that defies description. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's just so interesting that that's possible in an abstract sense, you know?
It really is. And it's honestly, like learning about other languages helps you understand your own better and like the limitations and strengths of English. And it helps change how you think. Like, it's very arrival in a sense. Like, yeah, learning how to speak a different language changes how you think. Even if, even just understanding the language as a concept is really
good. Like reading some of like the gravestone epitaphs that the Romans wrote for their pets. And it's just like this person writing about how like I had you when you were small enough to fit in the palm of my hand, and you walked with me through the orchards, and you walked with me along the sea, and now I'm walking with you to like lay you to rest. And it's just like heartbreaking, because you think about the pets that you've had and the loves that you've had and the like the life and the loss and like everything. And you're like, this person died 7,000 years ago or whatever. And I'm crying because of their dog, And like language is just, they wrote that down and now it speaks. It speaks to me, a person they could not possibly conceive, It's all very interesting. That's all.
It really is, yeah. Or even like outside of like narratives, like just language itself. Like I think a personal experience I had that I think is kind of a cool thing about how learning language is almost always additive is when I was studying organic chemistry in college. That was the first time I was exposed to the word cis and trans because we were studying isomers, and there's like cis and trans ones. It just means like the literal Latin meaning like same side or crossing over. And so like like in the 2010s. Yeah, and so in the 2010s, when like all of a sudden the Republicans started to make trans people into the whole thing, I was like, "Oh, cis trans makes perfect sense. I get it. That's Latin. It's been around forever. Right? Functionally, it's cool." But there's other people, they're like, "It's a slur. They're trying to," it's like, learn organic chemistry.
Yeah. When I read about where cis came from, maybe I just like misread the original thing, but to my understanding, it was just like a random thing. I had no idea that it was. Oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah, cis and trans. Like there it is. The hydrogen's on the same side. Trans, the hydrogen's on the opposite side. It's kind of like chirality.
Fascinating. Weird. Cool. Interesting. Good.
Yeah.
So he had a Commodore 64.
Yeah, because he was really into computers even from a young age because his interest in language extended to programming languages. but he grew up on, he lived in a trailer park for a lot of his childhood. His family wasn't super well off. So his computers were hand-me-downs, including a Commodore 64. So he had like a lot of Commodore 64 nostalgia, even though he was born in 1996.
Yeah.
Like, it was pretty interesting because, like, I never got to do it, but when I did the episode on Temple OS, he wanted to guest on that because one of his, he interacted with that guy when he ran Nature, and also because since he knows Commodore 64 stuff, he had this thesis that Temple OS is basically sort of riffing on Commodore 64 programming level, and if you understand the programming, it's kind of like an homage in a way that makes more sense than just like by itself.
I mean, fuck, man. I don't know who else we could talk to about that because, like, I absolutely want to do an episode on Temple OS because that speaks to me on so many levels. If you don't know Temple OS, it's something. He wasn't a something awful user, was he?
He did post on something awful. That was like after he had sort of developed a name for himself. He registered there to promote Temple OS, and they sort of kept him around. So like, this dude's fascinating.
Because it was a guy who, I'm saying this with a certain amount of respect. He did say some pretty virulently racist stuff, but he made an early computer operating system as a dedicated platform to talk to God. And it is like, he is truly one of God's greatest schizophrenics. It's absolutely fascinating. And the videos of him explaining how his computer works, where he's just like, the microphone is practically against his teeth. He's so close to the mic. And he's just like snickering while explaining how the computer auto-generates these prayers that will like apparently be sent to God. Fascinating fucking computer. Fascinating individual. But yeah, the technology of God is, whew, I would read that book. But anyways.
Yeah. And obviously, he was very into computers, admittedly partially out of necessity because he was stuck inside a lot with broken bones, but also like that was his interest. Like that was something he kind of mused about me. He's like, I'm into computers, but it's really all I could be into when I'm like this. Like other people could do all sorts of other things. Like we were talking about being into computers and stuff. But he wasn't much of a gamer, which surprised me, partially because of the manual dexterity issues, and partially because like he just wasn't really much of a media person. He didn't watch a lot of TV or movies. Most of the ones that he had like affection for, ones like his foster parents would like play a lot that he was exposed to. He very rarely watched movies or TV. He would usually watch like YouTube about factual stuff.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think that is a big white guy move because I do that too. I don't as much. I used to watch like nothing but like informative YouTube videos. Now I'm just kind of watching people stream games that I don't even want to play. But yeah, that makes sense.
He had a big monitor that he was playing his YouTube on, and he had his laptop in front of him. Yeah. Now I'm using that monitor. It is very nice. But,
that's crazy.
Yeah. Although he wasn't much of a gamer, he did like to watch his sibling and foster siblings play video games. And they did sort of, as we'll see, wind up leading to his radicalization. But before I do that, one other note I have is his early internet experience, that he's a small child who's on the internet, and he's very well-written, well-spoken, but he's also very immature. So, like, one of the examples he told me about once was when he was a kid, there was some, like, malware installer where the cover was, ooh, have custom cursors. And people were like, don't install this, it's malware. And he was writing a very passionate essay-length defense of it and how it wasn't malware just because he liked the cursors. And he was like a little kid, and he's like, but it's good, and it makes the cursors look very nice.
I mean, when I'm playing a video game and it makes my cursor look like a little chainmail gauntlet, that's pretty cool. The Stalker game where your cursor has the little radioactivity symbol, pretty fucking sick, you know? Yeah.
Some things are worth
yeah, we need cursors that have like particle effects that will like trail like blood and entrails across the screen. Yeah.
That would be a fun episode, like 2000s, like super hardcore desktop customizing scene. Just find some people's like super modded out Windows installation.
Yeah, God. One of the
glossy Spider-Man wallpapers.
My buddy Martin just gave me a bootleg Game Boy Color that boots up and has like 400 different Game Boy ROMs in it. But Martin is a Game Boy camera guy. If you're on Instagram, I think his name is Game Boy Camera Operator. And so like it has the little plug-in camera nodule for the Game Boy Color. And so you can take these like blasted out like 60 by 60 pixel photos with it. One of the earliest digital cameras ever made. Yeah, I don't know. I like all that techie, weird interstitial stuff. So
it is neat. Yeah, and as one of his things with Linux was he did make some stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
The thing is, so the moment about being radicalized by gaming, his sort of first introduction to the bad side of the internet was through the Chow Garden in Sonic Adventure 2, of all things. Like, did you ever play Sonic Adventure 2 back in the day?
Oh, I've not touched any Sega game in my life.
Yeah, Sonic Adventure 2 is very much a like touchstone for a specific type of nerd. Like, I feel like if you're like neurodiverse or furry, you probably were very into Sonic Adventure 2 if you're right at some point. Like one of those like across boundaries type things. So that kind of being his thing was very funny to me from that perspective.
Yeah, like where the poison gets in. Yeah.
Yeah, because in Sonic Adventure 2, there's a little thing called the Chow Garden where you can raise virtual pets. And when you go to the little Chow kindergarten where you can like give them class and stuff, they have a bulletin board. And originally, because this was originally Dreamcast games, one of the gimmicks of the Dreamcast was the first console launch with a modem built into it, was that you could connect to the internet and post about Sonic Adventure on the Chow bulletin board. And on the PC versions of it as well, it would give you a link to that website. And so this is what it looked like. It would take you to this little text-based bulletin board system where you could post about Sonic Adventure. And nobody, and the thing is that they stopped moderating it after a couple of years. So this big game for kids was directed to an unmoderated web space. And of course, places like 4chan loved that and were sort of playing around in there. And that's when his first encounter to it. And they directed him to 4chan from there. And that was kind of his pathway to radicalization.
Yeah. And like, I mean, you probably have a lot more to say about his radicalization, but I do know that, like, I mean, maybe you'll touch on this. One of the things that he said on the HBO thing was that, like, he read on 4chan, he just, like, saw posts about people, like, saying, like, real genocidal stuff about people with disabilities, and that was one of the things that made him go, like, oh, this is what people really think about me. And this is where they actually get to say it. And so that kind of metastasized the radicalization. Because it just made him go like, well, these people fucking despise me. So I'm just going to dip. Like, I'm going to check out from socializing because I just will imagine that everybody fucking hates me. And obviously that's not the case. And because 4chan is like a filter that only... it kind of self-selects the most vile people imaginable. That's one of the things that furthered him down the rabbit hole of radicalization. We should also note that he didn't stay there. He didn't stay radicalized.
Oh, yeah.
But this,
thankfully,
I have more to say because, like, I 4chan put stupid politics in me when I was young, and it didn't stick. So
yeah. And that is kind of like one of my theses with Fred. Is like a lot of people were like embarrassing right wingers when they were 19. It's just he was a genius, so he was an embarrassing right winger when he was 19. It happened to be, something that wound up having a profound effect on the world.
Yeah, dude. Like, I mean, it's like a lot of people are trigger happy, but he was trigger happy with the capacity to make like thermonuclear weapons. So he ended up. I mean, this is just it's so funny. He ended up creating something that had put a finger on the scale for like such a revolution in modern political history. Like, I don't think it's a stretch to say that like he's not responsible for the things that happened, but like who knows if they would have happened anything remotely the way that they did had he not done the thing, like had he not had his finger on the scale of history,
Yeah, and that was a lot of what drove him later in his life. Like, big part of why he did the documentary and everything was because he was like, after the Christchurch shooting, he was like, he realizing that you were wrong about everything is really hard. And a lot of people can't do that. But he was like, oh, fuck, I was wrong about everything. Shit. Basically, that basically he's like, oh, this libertarian free speech stuff, yeah, that's not working. Okay. And then basically, like, all the stuff you have to do trying to make up for that or take the site down. That's one of the reasons why he became a fugitive and had to leave the Philippines. And his life there was because, he had been being really aggressive, and they had libel laws, and also like, he had been using lawfare to try and like get the company shut down. And they were pushing back against that. Like, yeah, he did endanger himself to try and make this right. And I think is very actions speak louder than words.
Yeah, but let's pull the pull back to before the radicalization, or like to how did this board contribute to the story? Because I feel like I wanted to zoom forward to make sure people know that he didn't die a right-wing freak. But let's go back to like the outermost rim of the rabbit hole, I guess.
Yeah, like a lot of most of my notes, they don't have a lot of the stuff that was covered in like the documentaries and stuff. Because I don't want to cover ground that already had been. But I will say, like, in terms of that, like you said, like, yeah, it's just, I feel like in a way anybody who's kind of gone through that experience knows what his was like. It's just his was a lot like a lot of people, they have insecurities that drives them to like bad places on the internet, and it normalizes lots of it shouldn't. Just his insecurities were maybe a bit more justified, a bit more visible to other people in a way that sort of reinforced that more. Whereas, like, I feel like a lot of people have a thing like they're a kid and they think they're ugly, and they grow up and look back like, oh, this is a completely normal ass teenager. Whereas with him, it's like he's always going to be someone with brittle bone disease. That's not something that's going to change, and he had to kind of make his peace with that.
Yeah. I look back at pictures of me and I'm just like, oh, I could share so many more pictures if my dumbass didn't have that facial hair that I had between like 17 and like 25. like every one of those photos is unshareable because of that. Be kind to yourself. I don't know. It makes me think of, I was hanging out with Dave Ross, a friend of the pod, Dave, and it was me and a bunch of other comedians, and somebody was looking at their phone, and Dave said, oh, that's funny. Do you have a baby picture of you on as your phone background as like a way to tell you to like be kind to yourself? And she's like, yeah, my therapist said that if you beat yourself up a lot and you're like mean to yourself, put a innocent picture of you as a kid on your phone, and that will kind of remind you to like, hey, don't be mean to this little kid, because you're still that person. And Dave pulled up his phone, and it was a little picture of like an adorable young Dave Ross. And then there was somebody else in the group that pulls out a picture of another adorable picture of themselves. And can I do it? Yeah. And I pull up my phone, and my phone is a extremely dramatic photo of a massive tire fire. It's just like this. It's like this black pile of tires, this streak of boiling red fire, and then this voluminous plume of pitch black smoke. And it's just like, oh man, we're all on different stages of our journey, huh? That's funny. Anyways.
Yeah, so a bit of offline, outside of the fortunate stuff, this is kind of the big sort of thick trauma that caused everything, I think, is that, so his father, David, starts having an affair with Fred's nurse, and they plot to get Vera, his mom, out of the picture by accusing her of abusing the kids and using the fact that she's in a wheelchair to frame her as an unfit mother. This was in the 90s and 2000s, so it wasn't as hard. Like, when she was a kid, they put her in the slow classes, even though there's nothing different about her mentally, just because people have disability issues and assumptions, and that ableism can carry over like this in ways.
Yeah, he sucks.
Yeah, it really sucks, and and it worked. It succeeded, and his dad took Fred and his sibling away and divorced her. And then later, he got sick of having to deal with the kids, even though he was getting money from them with the disability check. So he surrendered his parental rights and he dumped them into foster care, splitting them up. That's one of the reasons why Fred spent 6 years of his adolescence in foster care, is because his dad was just, this con man was just like, yeah, these checks aren't worth having to deal with these kids. Fuck them, and just threw them away.
Jesus Christ. So yeah, the kids are split up. And, the foster care system is a litany of nightmares. You don't need us to tell you that.
Yeah, like, I didn't know as much about it before I knew him. It was kind of eye-opening, him telling me stories and stuff. Especially because most of his experience was in, like, upstate New York, which is rural, and, like, kind of religious. So he was seeing I have some notes from some of the families he told me, the stories he told me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool, yeah. It's like, basically the way that the foster care system is set up, especially in where he was, it's really hard to be to foster adopt normally. But if you're a certain type of person and you know how to game the system, it's really easy. Like if you're like a white landowner with a small business or something, it's super easy. And so a lot of the families he was with were evangelical Christians who had like a small army of foster children, subsidizing them with benefit checks and doing free labor for their small businesses or on their farms. Like when we did the Kapler episode and I talked about the guy who had a bunch of foster kids, Fred immediately called out a bunch of stuff about that guy just based off of that's turned to be absolutely right. Like this is a type of guy.
Yeah, I mean, there are some horror stories of like white women or white families, I should say, adopting a whole bunch of black kids, using them for labor, and then like literally just straight up killing. It's just psychopathy that's been enabled by a history of white supremacy and, all of the nightmare shit that this country is. But it's like, that happens today. That happens right now. And the family court system is a nightmare. I don't know, man. Remember that the government that is allowing ICE to do everything that it's doing, and for the companies to poison the water and to poison the food and to poison the ground, all of those agencies are run by more or less the same types of people that run every other part of the government, including a lot of the childcare stuff. So be kind, I guess. Find a way to not be like them. I don't know. I wish I had something smarter to say.
Yeah, I don't have anything smart to say. Maybe something a little more fun is one of the most colorful foster parents he told me about was Barb. She ran a catering business, and she would have the kids do food prep at home. That was his thing. Since he couldn't go out and work, he would stay home and make raviolis or whatever. Stuff you do with his hands sitting down. And what really was, she was obsessed with Olestra, and this was in the 2000s. This was this is well after the 90s Olestra fad. People knew it gave you diarrhea, and she was obsessed with it. She would buy tubs of it and put in everything she cooked for the family. He said that he could still smell and taste Olestra, so it was in everything.
Yeah. Olestra weakens, what is it? It weakens the anal sphincter, so it just causes seepage. Is what they call it.
Yeah, causes the oils or something to not be absorbed, so you just have loose oils in your colon and they just come dripping out.
Yeah, dude, awesome. If you want to know more about Olestra, the podcast Maintenance Phase, I'm almost certain did a big episode about them, and it's as gross as you'd imagine.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Anyways.
Another fun thing is that she would, after she did catering jobs, she would take the leftover food home to feed the kids to save money on feeding them. I think the caterers taking the food home was literally an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. That is a very Seinfeldian thing.
But also, I did a big catering event once, and there was just heaps of food, just huge trays of fresh strawberries and chocolates and all of this stuff. And they're literally, you can't take it home. You have to eat what you can here, but none of this can go home. And so I just had to gorge myself on strawberries. But I don't know.
I do have employees issue, but this was a local family owned thing. It was just basically her and her kids. Yeah. No, this is the wildest one. It was she and her bio kids would pretend to be raptured to try and scare the foster kids into converting. That was the thing they would do. They would leave empty clothes on the ground and hide in the closets. And the kids would come in and see it, and be oh, and then they jump out and go, ha, see, if you don't, this is going to happen one day for real.
Someday you'll find pants. Yeah. Great. Cool. That makes sense. I don't know. Faking your death to scare your kids into worshiping a punishment demon seems bad, but you put a cross on it and it's good. So, okay. One of her bio kids is a skull mask guy now. Are you talking about the half face right wing skull mask?
Yeah, the right wing or gun dude skull mask type. For instance, he was curious. He looked up on Facebook once, and that guy's a Nazi.
Yeah, one of the most insane dickhead guys that I grew up with. I checked in on him, and his profile picture is just a truck. But which is funny. Because this was a guy that, he was just a rough and tumble dipshit. I remember in high school, it was hey, dude, here, check this out. And he puts my fingers up to his skull, and there's a piece of his skull that is missing. It's just a dip that goes in real soft right there. Oh. And, he's kind of out there. But I ran into him not too long ago, and I mean, night and day difference. It's hey man, how are you? I love what I've been seeing. It looks like you're doing a lot of good stuff, and keep me tell your mom I said hi, and totally nice guy. Just likes trucks or something. I don't know. So it was just, I was really good for him. I don't know. Yeah, it probably means more to me because I knew the guy. But yeah, that's my story.
Yeah, it's when you see someone whose profile picture is Johnny Cash flipping off the camera, and they're actually still a regular ass person. It's oh, I didn't know that's a possibility. And also another one of the downside about this foster thing is that one of the reasons why Fred's arms are so bent up is because when he was in foster care, they wouldn't take him to the hospital when he broke his arms because they didn't want to lose their meal ticket. If you have your foster kid, you take him to the hospital, then people ask questions and They didn't want to deal with it. Just like, no, your arm's going to heal here. And then when he came back, his mom she literally cried like when she had rolled his sleeves up and she saw him bench.
Yeah, I've heard similar stories of just like, I don't know, the squalor that kids live in, and because there is that little obstacle of you don't want to tell somebody else how to live and like raise their kids, and to do so can result in people like screaming at you in a parking lot. There's kids out there that are living in like nightmare conditions, and it's like really hard for anybody to do anything at all about it. So yeah, it's just one of the ways of the world, man. But she eventually like got the kids back, so I mean that's good, you know.
Yeah, it took years, but eventually she was able to be like, hey, he forfeited his parental rights. I'm still their parent. I want them back. And then eventually she was able to get them. And Fredrick actually spent his last couple of years in high school living with her in Atlantic City and going to school there. So, and that was kind of true because Atlantic City is a small city. There's only one high school, and everyone in the city sends their kids to it. So it's like another uniquely mixed situation. Also, Atlantic City is pretty diverse. Like it's 31.8% Black, 32.4% Latino, 29.6% of the population here is foreign-born, according to the recent census information. So, like, yeah, like you have this, like, you know, racist 4chan nerd being put in like a very diverse place,
this could be a sitcom, man. Oh wow. Oh Jesus. Yeah, talk about a fish out of water.
Also, his mom lived in subsidized housing, so that really, with him being racist at the time, that really made that tough because he was just like really paranoid about everything. The neighborhood was a lot rougher back then. That's what I know.
Yeah. Was he a wheelchair user at this point?
Oh yeah, he's been a wheelchair user his entire life. Like, that is one of the things too. Is like teaching kids how to use wheelchairs is already tough, but when they have like brittle bones, like imagine like learning to drive, except every time you mess up, you break a bone.
This is.
I guess that is driving it, depending on how you mess up.
Well, my car goes at 1,000 miles an hour all the time, so I smash everything all the time. Yeah, I look like a mummy.
Yeah, you have one of those debug cars from Stalker. You're just clipping through mountains and stuff.
Yeah. No, have you seen the videos of when they turn off friction in Grand Theft Auto and all of the cars are just like zipping across the screen? One of my favorite Let's Play videos is a guy trying to just beat Grand Theft Auto, but every car everywhere is going at like 500 miles an hour, and so like he can't cross the street without getting like turned into a pate. It's really fucking funny. But anyways, he's very much fish out of water. He's living among all these different types of people. But it's probably, I would imagine, causing him to kind of regress into himself more and more.
Definitely.
Did he have a lot of friends during this time?
He did have some real-life high school friends at the time that he kept in touch with. Like before he came up here, one of the people who was working remotely for him was somebody he went to high school with. Like, so he did have some real-life friends, but like all of it, like a story he told me once, I thought was a very funny illustration of like how paranoid and reclusive he was at the time. Is that he was really into precious metals as a teenage libertarian, and so he scrimped and he saved and he bought some silver coins because he was like watching YouTubers that were telling him like to do it basically. Okay, and then Hurricane Sandy hit, and then he was terrified the whole time that somebody was going to steal his coins during the evacuation. So he's like, "Get back! I get my coins."
But didn't he pay you in doubloons for something? Didn't he pay? He gave you. He needed to give you some money, but he didn't have any cash. He was like, "Here, take these gold coins to take them to the fucking cash for gold place."
Yeah, when I first came here, he was like, yeah, we need some cash to put together this PC. So he gave me some like gold coins. I was like, yeah, go to this coin place and sell them, and then we can use that money to do it.
That's so
like,
funny, dude. I think I bought a copy of, it was either Fallout New Vegas or Fallout 4, but I paid for it in like silver dollars or something like that. So I wanted to have like an interesting tableau. Because I was a Reddit kid at the time, and it was a very annoying way to do it. But paying somebody in doubloons is just what a fun touch.
Very. Yeah, I felt like I was going on a quest. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, he's mostly spending most of his time online making friends that way. Like we got to hang out. He like showed me like some of the places that meant a lot to him from when he was a teenager, and it was like the aquarium or like this like this little restaurant in the bus terminal because he couldn't drive, so he'd take the bus everywhere. And he would just have like little quiet areas he'd like to hang out like between the time he'd leave school and come home and just be by himself, or, exist. Like he really liked the aquarium a lot. I'm glad they reopened and I got to go to him once.
Now, was he? When did he start to get into like furry culture? Is that much later?
From what I understand, it's something that he's basically kind of like always been into, but it's just like something he kept secret because he grew up in the same kind of hostile environment as I did, where it's just like And then it wasn't until like towards the end of his life when he was like kind of. He was pretty despairing. He was like, fuck it, nothing matters anymore. Why am I keeping this a secret? That's when, like, his final years is when he kind of started just being open about it. Like, by the time I met him, one of the reasons I messaged him was because his persona as an avatar that stood out. And I was like, oh, that's a cute raccoon. Oh, that's funny. He's using the same name as the guy who made 8chan. Oh, he has 25,000 followers. Fuck, that's the guy who made 8chan.
That's crazy. God.
Sure, yeah. And so he graduates high school, class of 2012. And he wants to live on his own, experience independence, and he's not interested in college. So, also, I think it's 2012. He's an adult. His first election, he voted for Ron Paul.
Yeah, that makes sense. Ron Paulution. Yeah.
Not even like the 2008 one when there was actually kind of like some like Darren. So this is like late.
Yeah. That was. I mean, you don't need us to tell you the story of how that campaign was what like thinned the beasties out of something awful. That's a story for another time. But yeah, we've talked about it, I think.
Very, And so in 2012, the year he graduates high school, it's also the year he discovers Wizard-chan, which has been reported on. That was kind of a big part of his thing too, because Wizard-chan, like in the parlance of the time, a wizard is a 30-year-old person who has not had sex. The idea was like. It was like a forum for virgins or like people and for people to basically share their misery about how they were unfuckable and women sucked and all that stuff.
Just incel before incel.
Yeah, but I think incels might have been a thing around this. Like this is a little bit after. I think this is around the time of maybe like a year or two after that shooting when that was like the first time like incels became like a national thing that people knew.
Yeah, that's like the fear mongering about incels, which like I get because a lot of like self-identified incels have like insanely vile politics, but the fear-mongering about like these young men who aren't getting their dicks wet is just such a strange thing. Because it's like, well, what are you suggesting? That they fuck more? Buddy, they're trying. Like that's the whole thing. Like I don't know, vile, but yeah, I do remember that a bit. And then he starts working on Mechanical Turk, which I didn't think that would be a name that you could use anymore. That seems problematic, but
do you know what it's a reference to?
Yeah, like the little chess playing robots from the turn of the century.
Yeah, I think since it's a proper object, they're allowed to still call it Turk, I guess. But yeah. It's the Mechanical Turk was an Amazon marketplace for crowdsourcing menial tasks. Like when I was in college, I made a little bit of money working on it. It would be stuff like tagging photos or organizing stuff. Some of the more complicated stuff like subtitling videos, things that are very tedious, but like you could just kind of like a prototype.
Just data entry stuff like that.
Yeah. And unfortunately, this is all stuff that AI would handle now. So that sort of marketplace doesn't exist anymore. Like that was one of the things that Fred had kind of despaired about. He was like the things I used to do when I was younger that way I could make money don't really exist anymore.
That makes sense. Now it's all bigger and faster and weirder and more problematic.
And so eventually he does get a job as a software engineer, and they wind up moving him to New York City to work full time and get more hours. And this is the first time he's ever been on camera in something. At the time when he lived in New York, Al Jazeera had a series called The Other America, and one segment was on his life at the time, just as a disabled person. They didn't even know he was the 8chan guy.
Wait, so he was the 8chan guy by this point?
We'll see. I have that a little bit later about the exact timeline of it, but this is just like, this is the very young Fred, and it's like him living by himself. This one line in particular, it's insane. This is his boss at the tech company, and he's talking, and he's like, he's a better worker because he's not running away here. Fred, and you can just see the look on his face. Like when your boss, that's like when your friend makes a joke like that. That's when your boss makes it about you in the context of how hard he works.
That's weird. I mean, like Lord knows. We've made fun jokes about Fred, but they're definitely coming from a place of like love and admiration, and it's not like check out my surf. I didn't realize how much he had actually lived alone. I mean, it says here you're saying that it's really hard and dangerous. I'm like, that seems I don't want to sound like I'm saying that he was incapable, but like Fred is a very small man with extremely brittle bones, and like the idea of him operating a stove or getting himself safely in and out of the bathtub seems really hard. Is it problematic for me to say that seems?
No, you're not wrong. A lot of this was driven personally. Like a part of it too is like because of Social Security, because of how disabled he is. Like he doesn't have to work. This was a choice that he made. He wanted to make money and live on his own and do stuff and not just be like, especially with his politics at the time. I'm sure he deeply resented the fact that he had to rely on government.
Yeah, I don't doubt. You have a story here that follows up after the hard and dangerous life. Please illuminate me on this one.
So this was mentioned in the documentary, but he almost froze to death in 2014 because he had been mugged and he went to the police station to do a lineup, and then afterwards his bus didn't come and it was winter and his chair died, and so he was just stuck out in the street freezing to death. Like he got hypothermia and had to be hospitalized, and he said it was really, really dispiriting because like people would just assume he was homeless and ignore him, and like when people did notice him, like once someone gave him a half-finished coffee and he was like, "What am I supposed to do with this?" And they got mad and left, and he was just like, just this, I could see how that would be a very black-pilling experience, just like literally freezing to death and nobody else.
Yeah, that sounds extremely frightening. Jesus Christ. I don't even know where one would go to. I mean, it just makes me think of when Elon Musk was asked, like, if you had to start now with $1,000, like, what would you do to get the money? And like, Elon cannot conceive of ever not being a quadrillionaire. And so his thing was basically like, that would never happen. I'm too smart. I would never have $1,000. It's like you are in a wheelchair in the middle of like the city and it's cold and people are just trained to walk by you. I'm glad that he survived. It's great.
Yeah, and also like one of the things too is like until he never really learned how to bundle up really well for the winter because his foster family would always just like throw a jacket on him and drag him out, and he'd be like very cold in his chair. Like that was interesting. I didn't know. It was like because he was in the wheelchair, he would get colder because when you walk, like your body's movement ambiently warms you up. It like raises your. Whereas he doesn't have that, so he's even colder. Whereas like with me, I'm like, no, let's get you some more layers on here. And so I think that's a part of it too. It was just that was just normal for him when you go out in the winter, it's freezing cold.
Yeah, it just seems like there's just so many other problems with the fact, the fact that we don't know what it's like to live another person's life. And the only way that we can know that, to learn about somebody else, is by taking a pause from our own life and listening to somebody. That is the core problem with the human race, I guess, is that we're unable to slow down and listen as often as we should be.
And I do think that is one of the tragedies of Fred's upbringing, is that it's like, yeah, he went right from like this like horrible foster situation to like this horrible internet situation to immediately on his own and then living with the Watkinses. Like he never really had a chance to like see how other people live in a way that was positive. And, that was kind of like one of the nice things. I'm very unusual. I can't say that, but like just stuff like he'd never gotten to decorate Easter eggs before. And I was like, that was the thing we did. Or like, he didn't know that Groundhog Day was an actual holiday. He just thought it was like an old movie he'd never seen. It's like, I showed him that and he really loved Little Groundhog and everything. Just like so much stuff he'd never gotten to experience before just through neglect.
Yeah.
Out,
I mean, it's a whole life. Being able to share the world anew with someone who hasn't seen all the things that you've seen is it's one of the most beautiful things of life because you get to see it from somebody else's eyes.
Yeah, and he got to deal with me too because he knew so much academic stuff I didn't know about. Like that was one of the reasons why I liked him. It's like he would always surprise me. Like he was very smart about academic stuff, and I was very knowledgeable about pop culture stuff. So we supplemented each other well like that. But
yeah, he was just like such an incredible person, but also just an incredible resource for so many different things. God, yeah.
I guess I have one other note here on that. Just like one of the reasons he liked having me around is that people are really weird to unattended people in wheelchairs. And like when I was with him, they would leave him alone. Like once we were at Books A Million and I went to get him a coffee, and when I came back, there was this old woman doing like a young man, where is your grown up type thing to him. But like he has a beard. Like those weren't her exact words. Like her attitude is like she was talking to a lost child, even though he's like a grown ass.
That's bizarre. Man. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, there were a couple of times that someone tried to pickpocket him. Like, he's a very attractive target. It's happened to him a bunch. Like, the first time it happened, I was walking, like, this lady was, like, walk up to him talking. And he's like, go away, go. I was like, what was that all about? And he was like, she's trying to pickpocket me. I was like, really?
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, that makes sense.
I mean, it's just like, I mean, I was pissing at a urinal once, and I had a guy digging out of my backpack, and I look back, and he just smiles at me because it's just like he knows that he's going to get away because I have my dick in my hands, and he didn't get anything, and so it was just one of those things where it's just like touche. We just kind of have to go our separate ways.
The power move and turn around and just start pissing on him.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hey, buddy. You want your K Swiss to be K Cheddars? Because here it comes. Complicated piss cheese joke. Piss shoes cheese joke there. Write that one down, folks, because Swiss is white.
Piss shoes cheese joke. Yeah, right next to Floor Pizza Goon Wife. It's part of our quad.
Piss cheese shoes joke. Floor Pizza Goon Wife. All of that unlocks my Bitcoin account.
Yeah, we're halfway to making our own tenant cube at this point.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, Sator Arepo. It just goes down and across. Yeah. We're going to break here, folks, because this is a long story, and we are about to get into when he creates 8chan and all of the things that come from that. We do have, we have our plugs, and we have a bit of a little recommendation thing at the end. I don't know if you still want to do that, Jay.
Yeah, we can totally do that. I have one at the end because for last other ones I can do over.
Cool. And as always, we thank you for listening, but we do have a Patreon. We have a bunch of stuff on there. We have like 50, 60 hours of episodes that are full real life episodes that aren't just people gabbing about things. They're real fun, weird stories that we don't cover here. All of that money goes to Jay and Steve. So we really appreciate it if you subscribe to that and give us sort of like and review and all that stuff and tell your friends, blah, blah, blah. If you want to know anything more about me or to get my new game or to check out any of my other stuff, I've got a new game coming. Been posting about that too. I am Winslow-Domain, winslow-domain.com, Winslow-Domain on Twitter, and Calculations on Instagram. By the time this comes out, I think my game will hopefully be in my hands and it'll be getting shipped out. So please check that out there. And Jay, where can they find you?
I'm jaybrandstetter on Blue Sky. I have my link tree in the notes. It's been about a year since I last worked on like a personal project, so I thought I'd put out like if anyone wants, like, I'm happy to collaborate with people. Like if you need a guest on your show, or like you want someone to punch up some text in your indie game or something, get in touch. I'm always happy to help out.
That'd be great. That'd be really cool. But yeah, and of course, iftipod@gmail.com if you have any ideas for the show or notes or suggestions or anything like that. We'd love to hear from you. Yeah, check us out. We love you so much. And Jay, you have a rec for us?
Sure, yeah. The past couple of weeks, I've just been kind of like spending a lot of time playing games. I'm familiar with listening to podcasts, and I'm late. This is another big podcast on my tube. I finally started listening to Blowback, and it's been it was a little more produced than I usually prefer, but the information's very good. The delivery is really good. I've been enjoying it. A lot of stuff I didn't like. I grew up in Florida, and the Cuban Missile Crisis one is still a lot of stuff I didn't know. So it's I'm only on season 2 right now, but yeah, it's good history presented well. And as someone who grew up during the Iraq War, in high school, they do a very good job capturing like all the crazy stuff that was going on at the time that is like kind of hard to explain.
Yeah, we were out for blood in ways that are like, it's crazy that there's an enemy of the week every week and that we've never, ever, ever, ever learned that like, this is how we're kept in control. We're taught to fear Iraqis and Somalis and Venezuelans, and all the while we are just getting like robbed blind by, just the rich people in power. So, yeah, it's good show to listen to. I've been working a lot on my new game, which is Project Zero Z Zone. Will be, the real name I've not announced quite yet. But while I've been picking at that, I've been playing a game called Clover Pit, which bounced off of me at first because it is, like many roguelikes, a heavily RNG based game where like, you could describe a lot of roguelikes as just like a gussied up slot machine where you get random items in random rooms every time you play. And so it's like, are you mastering anything other than the dopamine hit of playing a new random generation of a world, right? Clover Pit is literally you are trapped in a room with a slot machine, presumably in some sort of like nightmare dimension. It seems like it's in hell. And it bounced off of me at first, but I have been appreciating some of the more emergent synergistic elements and the math that comes out of it. And it's been fun. I pick at that a little bit and then go about my day and try not to think about everything in my life that is terrifying and painful and and painfully terrifying and all that. So yeah, play Clover Pit if you want. It's cheap. Go ahead. And that's all for me. I don't know if you have anything else, but we'll be back next week with more of the late, great Fredrick Brennan. And we love you so much, and we'll be back with more. Take care. I'm From the Internet is created by jaybrandstetter in Winston, Maine. Edited by Steve Brown. Music by Steve Is Broke.